This week we found out Worf has not yet gotten his Lean or Six Sigma certifications here on View Please. A vile visit the Bajor. My name is Joseph.
Dude, where's my profits? Your co-host, Peter.
Peter, what episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine have we watched this week?
We're getting into Season 4, Episode 7, Starship Down. First aired November 13th, 1995. This is written by David Mack and John Ordover, directed by Alex Singer and Universe Date 2372. None of these names really jumping out. Like, Alex Singer's been through a couple episodes with us directorially. I can't tell you anything David Mack or John Ordover did.
So David Mack is actually a accomplished Star Trek novelist. He's written, it looks like 35 different books. Some of which are like mirror universe books. Some of the kind of like extensions from the existing canon that they tried to do after Nemesis, like Star Trek Destiny and that sort of thing. So, novelist by trade. He and John
35.
Yeah.
This dude's working 40-hour weeks behind the keyboard minimum.
You know, George R.R. Martin. He is not.
Yeah,
this man produces. He also did a lot of the dialogue for the two major Star Trek Deep Space Nine video games, Dominion War and The Fallen. So he was really involved with the material. Some of these books he wrote have a lot to do with the sort of DS9 era. So he's tied into it, but he just never was much of a guy on the show. He did 2 episodes with John Ordover. This is, though, I would not say the most creative plot in the world for Star Trek, considering, like, literally they did this episode on TNG, one of its most famous. So, I think it was called Disaster, wasn't it?
It's Disaster. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah. Basically the exact same premise. Ship is under threat of destruction. Everyone is divided within the ship, having to deal with different elements of the disaster. And you have different vignettes, mini plots that are going on with each individual group as they have to contend with those issues and also have some kind of personal growth that goes along with it.
So I love Disaster. This episode was not bad. I think overall it was good. It was not great. And
no, not great.
As you sit there and talk about the formula, it's new for Deep Space Nine because it's the first time they're on a ship dealing with this. But I feel like that setup is actually pretty common as far as Deep Space Nine goes. Deep Space Nine is not the Enterprise. It is a foreign-built structure. It is stationary. It is under attack a lot more. And there's a lot more Deep Space Nine, especially early season plots, that the dilemmas are a result of substandard engineering and substandard technology.
Or the installation of unfortunately inconvenient poison gas canisters everywhere. Thank you, Civil Defense.
Intentional booby traps on this. And there's been at least, off the top of my head, 2 booby trap episodes specifically, and that was Civil Defense, and that was Too Early for Space Gibberish, whatever, or the
the disease that made everyone goofy talk.
And Civil Defense was much more a disaster setup where people were compartmentalized and had to fight their way through. So maybe that's what kind of knocks some of the luster off of this one. This is a story we've already seen. It's a newer setup for the story, but seeing the crew or the cast of Deep Space Nine compartmentalized as they have to unfuck the thing is well-worn treading. Now, the addition of Worf is new. The addition of the fact that this is actually, this is all Starfleet, right? Have we seen any Bajorans other than Kira on Defiant yet in uniform?
Yeah, there's been some Bajoran crew that have been on there, but it's definitely a very largely Starfleet operation. I think on purpose, right? Like the whole idea is this is actually a Starfleet vessel, and it's not a, management agreement that they have with the Bajorans like they do for the station. So there's definitely been a very specific decision made to not really have the Bajoran militia present on the Defiant, and that makes sense.
Let's talk about that for a second. Where Defiant is docked, we know that there is a full-time guard posted in front of the access tunnel, right?
Correct.
We saw that in the William Riker episode. Or, I'm sorry, the
Thomas Riker
episode. The Defiant is a test bed of new weapon systems. Those pulse phasers, which, just one-shot Dominion craft that was able to withstand, Type 10 phaser assaults by the Odyssey. So yeah, why would you have randos that you don't have full security clearance on? You've got this Romulan cloak, which is a big deal. That thing had a Romulan chaperone for a while. Push the question deeper. Who are these people staffing this? Because this is a people story, right? Especially down in that engineering compartment. And it's something I wanted to get in later in the episode, but maybe now's the time to write for it. Is the crew of the Defiant, did they come in with the Defiant as part of a larger staff expansion for Deep Space Nine when Sisko pulled this thing out of mothballs? Or is this thing being staffed by normal Deep Space Nine Starfleet personnel?
I think it's very clearly the case that the Starfleet staff of Deep Space Nine has expanded. They have spoken at different times about the staff expansion, although not in specific numbers. And it stands to reason that part of that expansion occurred exactly when the Defiant entered the chat in the beginning of season 3 after what happened to the Odyssey. So I would presume, based on the available evidence and what would be logical, Sisko goes back to Earth. He gets the Defiant. He staffs the Defiant with a crew of people that are going to be primarily assigned to the station, but also that their duties are connected to the use and maintenance of the ship, and brings them back.
Because otherwise it'd be real unfair to be hey, I know you're gas station track, you're a clerk, or maybe the guy, making hamburgers over in the MCO area. This is all Sheets lingo. I'll skip over all the hamburger talk, but that's a new problem for me. But to be unfair to be hey, by the way, I need you to get off the fries and don't worry about restocking the fucking orange slushy machine. You're going to be working in an engineering department now. And then being well, I know this is Starfleet, but I've been working on space stations for the past 15 years. I'm not ready for an experimental test bed hot rod suicide machine.
Especially because the warp core eats souls. It seems like something you really need to be touchy around.
Which, congratulations to Deep Space Nine for breaking its 3-episode
streak
of the engineering department being the engineering cabin being a Mortal Kombat fatality level.
Yes, it was in fact the safest area of the ship this time.
It absolutely was. So, hey, you're going to get tapped to get transferred onto the Defiant. You're going to be permanently stationed on Deep Space Nine. What a rough assignment to get pulled in for, huh?
Or a cool one, because I think the sort of the framing they give to the ascended extras in this episode, which I liked, by the way, that we have just these 3 guys. There's the ensign on the bridge, the red shirt ensign on the bridge. That's
Helm Hottie. Yes, we'll talk about her.
And your 2 engineering guys. I'm trying to remember their names. It was
one
Ortiz,
Muniz or Ortiz or something, and then Peterson's the one who died.
Peterson.
Peterson dies on the bridge.
Okay, hold on. I'm looking these guys up because these 2 guys, I really liked them. Muniz and Carson.
We'll get to Carson here.
Carson's okay. So Carson is Helm Hottie.
Oh, is Carson Helm Hottie?
Yes. Muniz is one of the engineering guys, and Stevens is the other engineering guy. So
Stevens is Barclay Jr.
Yes.
But hey, you guys are getting transfers. I'm going to pull you in. You're going to get reassigned to Deep Space Nine. Oh, you mean the space station that's going to get absolutely creamed when the Dominion spills out of the yeah. So that's already a suicide assignment, basically, right? The only people that should be going into Deep Space Nine postings happy should be the lawn suitors of Starfleet. should be your lunatic, psycho, suicidal murder people. And also, not only are you going to be in the super dangerous Deep Space Nine, you're also going to be primarily assigned to Ben Sisko's scrapped gunship that has to watch out that its own warp core, A, isn't killing it by going too fast while trying to use the guns, and B, trying to give you cancer while watching your son hyperage. Okay? And, as if the actual structure itself isn't bad enough, Sisko has developed a real reputation for telling admirals to fuck off and going on literal suicide missions. This thing's already been captured by the Dominion where everybody got stuck in a VR hellscape. Like,
what if Mass Effect 2, but you're not banging alien hotties? Like, what if it was all downside, no upside?
What if Mass Effect 2 on the crew, but also you're permanently assigned to the Citadel 15 minutes before the Reapers attack and turn everybody into human body piles? Aren't you glad you signed up for Starfleet? And as far as that goes, the two engineers, Barclay Jr. and this other guy, like, some confusion there, right? And this is jumping pretty deep in, but these are guys that we are told are just engineers. They did not even go to Starfleet Academy. And I'm like, how the fuck are you an engineer around the warp core without going to Starfleet Academy? Because, like, the first thing that popped in my mind is B'Elanna Torres, who did absolutely go to Starfleet Academy and was a washout. So, like, I don't know,
yeah,
man.
But she was. So this is where you get a little bit of that lingering sloppiness that they're still trying to figure out as it relates to officers versus enlisted men, and they've improved dramatically as it relates to that since TNG, right? Like, now we've got Chief O'Brien with a rank pin. Now we're having discussions on screen about the difference between the two, but there is still a lack of canon separation of exactly, like, Starfleet Academy is where the officers go to learn how to lead people and do things at a high level. And then there's some other training.
Starfleet Vocational
School, Starfleet Boot Camp, Starfleet for enlisted guys, right? And we know this sort of thing exists, and it's not necessarily this like a boot camp in a military sense, because we have the Good Shepherd episode of Voyager that touches on the idea that, like, people will sign up to work on starships at a pretty low level in order to, like, get time and space so that they can qualify to do some other kind of graduate work for whatever their speciality is, or that sort of
amazing
thing.
World building in that episode. I was thinking a lot about that as we were playing Across the Unknown, because that was the only mission that I failed. Did you pass or fail that mission?
I haven't gotten to it yet. I haven't been able to play the game as much as I wanted.
Wow, you haven't beat it yet?
No, I have not.
Well, let me give you a tip.
Work has stolen my soul. It's this and work. It's all I do now.
Here I am falling into Fallout 4. That mission tree, Tuvok takes him out instead of Janeway. And as you're navigating whatever the difficulties are of the dilemma, don't just look at the rewards and your success on the rewards on that away team. You have to take the bad kids' opinions or their recommendations and try to explore it, because if you ignore every one of their recommendations, when Tuvok goes back reports to Janeway, she's like, well, these people are worthless if we're not using their opinions. And that was the only mission I hard failed.
Interesting. That's very clever writing on their part, where, like,
I just space bar through the text box. I'm like, I don't care about what these guys are saying. Give me these I need deuterium real bad right now. And that fucked me.
I'm going to say the game continues to delight in the little ways that it manages to challenge you in ways that you wouldn't expect to get back into it. But that episode does give us a little bit more context, and it was, produced after this, right? Yes. Like, it's an ongoing sort of evolution that occurs on this stuff. But if we can, do what fans do, which is take the information that's available across the breadth of Berman and Trek and sort of rationalize the things we're thinking and saying, okay, what is O'Brien telling Worf when this kind of conversation comes up later in the episode? These guys went to Starfleet Vocational School because they wanted to turn wrenches in space. That's what they do. That's all they do. And they're not prepared to do the things that you or even I do, right? That I have advanced training. I'm a chief petty officer. I'm a leader of people like them. And I'm trying, we're going to build the actual like more paramilitary dynamic where you're the officer, I'm your top enlisted guy. And typically in the military, the top enlisted guy is kind of advising the officer in charge as to how to handle the grunts. And now you're going to, and this is a process that happens where they learn from their top grunt, someone who's typically been there a long time, sometimes a lot longer than them, that can give them that leadership wisdom of how, like, okay, let's bridge the gap between you, who's somewhat semi-aristocratic in how you have to approach things because you have an elevated breadth of expertise and also a much larger view of your responsibilities. And these guys whose job is like, I'm going to go into that Jeffries tube and I'm going to make the thing work. And you have to direct them, you have to keep the reins on them, but you also have to give them some latitude because that's the thing they're good at. And you need to respect that.
I would say that my impression of the Enterprise is that, at least, through Berman era, was that everybody was a Starfleet officer that had gone through Starfleet Academy. And when we talk about Starfleet being the best of the best, does that apply to these? There's so many questions I got here about this enlisted versus officer thing. If only there was some Star Trek show dedicated to exploring Starfleet Academy.
If only they had made a nuanced, well-developed Starfleet Academy show where we could have really fleshed out these details. Yeah, that's too bad nothing like that ever existed. Certainly never was canceled. Anyway, we're moving forward. Let's not, let's go back to Disaster TNG, because that episode did have two things in it that is shared with this, which is Worf and O'Brien in key roles, which is something of note because O'Brien wasn't necessarily always involved in TNG plots, obviously. But in that episode, it was on the bridge, you had Troy having to be in charge, and it was Ro and O'Brien, which are really great characters to pair with her because they have very different takes and have different levels of expertise and personalities about what to do, about, do we separate the ship? Do we, take these actions that can imperil everybody? It was Riker and Data trying to handle the engineering issue, and Picard was in the was in the turbo lift with the kids, which was the best part of the episode. And then Worf was helping Keiko give birth.
Which I'm almost willing to put this thing on the board as a weakest shit contender, that when Worf gets down into engineering and reconnects with O'Brien, there's not a single joke about, I don't suppose I've got any new kids that have just, like, you didn't find any new kids up there for me, did you?
Well, the only reason I'm going to say that they shouldn't do that is that the Worf having to help Keiko give birth joke is to come.
Okay.
It's not, there will be a time when that joke will occur that is much better than now.
Well, listen, there needed to be something. Where was Ron Moore in all this? Like, when Worf comes in and O'Brien's there, he could have been like, yeah,
this shit again.
Huh? Happy anniversary. Happy disaster anniversary.
But so another person we haven't discussed yet, actually, and maybe the gem of this episode, Quark. And not only Quark, but James Cromwell. So James Cromwell is I think, better known for his TNG episodes, and then obviously First Contact. In terms of his Trek, he has a lot of Trek material when we think about it. But this is his one and only Deep Space Nine appearance. He's somebody who genuinely likes working on Star Trek.
You have to be, because again, we've got a movie star, right?
Yes.
This guy's
he's done Babe by now. He's already done Babe by now.
I forget. Did we say LA Confidential already happened?
No, LA Confidential hadn't happened yet, but Babe had happened.
And you're taking this guy who's a movie star and also like a good old friend who's done your TNG stuff, and you're being like, cool, here's a bunch of fucking shit to put on your face. And you're going to be so okay with it that you'll cycle back around and put more shit on your face in Voyager. Like, those are always kind of like the fuck you role. Or I don't know, maybe these guys like it. Maybe it's something different. Maybe they pay him, but who knows? But like, sitting in that makeup chair for a couple hours, I'm sure is not great.
Well, he was never in Voyager.
Are you sure?
Yeah, he did the minister with the mustache in TNG, and then
right.
You're thinking probably that character he played in Birthright that had like the big ridges on his head and was bald and was like the most shit on his face. But those were TNG episodes. And
was he in Enterprise?
I mean, as Zephyr Cochrane, briefly.
Well, that doesn't count.
Yeah, so
that's stock footage.
This is the last time he has shit on his face. He never was in Voyager.
Oh, he's in Lower Decks.
But he's apparently also old friends with Armin Shimmerman. And so I think that's probably why those scenes are super good, because you just put two guys who are not only good at acting and good at acting with stuff on their face, but also that like have worked together before.
Mm-hmm.
And let's just the best Quark content you could possibly want. Let's set it all up though, because I think we're like
the framing is really good.
Yes.
And
the framing is probably better than the TNG version of it because we've got more of a threat, right?
We've got the Defiant out in the Gamma Quadrant for great reasons. And that is that they need to go have a secret meeting with, what are these guys called?
They are called the Karema. We have seen them before because they were the guys that they turned to for help in finding the founders to begin with, if you recall. So the last time we met these guys was when Quark was there acting as the proxy to the Grand Nagus and had the staff. And the guy who was playing him was actually John Fleck, better known to us as Silic, and gave the immortal line, "Then the Jem'Hadar show up, and then you die."
Mm-hmm.
So that's who these guys are. So this is we're revisiting this race, and what we've found out is they've established essentially a trade relationship the Federation has with the Ferengi as intermediaries, and Quark is there because this is his thing, right? Like he's representing the interests of the Ferengi within the Gamma Quadrant, and probably taking a piece of the profit for himself in the process, no doubt. Turns out maybe too much, skimming off the top with a few too many scams. And the Karema are a little pissed that their business relationship with the Federation has not been profitable as a consequence.
At great risks. And this entire episode as a framing device, like the implications here across the board, the Karema are scared when we first meet them, right?
Yeah.
The Karema say, you do what the Dominion said, what the shadow leaders of the Dominion say, or the Jem'Hadar show up and they kill everybody. So them doing any business whatsoever with the Federation, even through a Ferengi intermediary, is ridiculous. And again, I'm going to give the benefit to the writers. Like, why would the founders allow the Karema to do business with the Alpha Quadrant? There has to be some sort of information spy benefit to it, right? And that's...
It could be that. It could be that the Karema kind of exist on the periphery of Dominion space. There is a force projection question. Can you really afford to spend the time and treasure and blood to conquer another planet when you're still getting everything you want out of them? And they're making, they're semi-independent. Obviously, they have their own government. They exist as their Susanter is the Dominion, but they're not like ruled by the Vorta. So that suggests a sort of satrapy kind of relationship. And that means they have more kind of flexibility to see to their own affairs. I don't know.
You could also say the Dominion's getting ready to go to war with the Federation. Do they have time to send the resources to go snuff these guys out? I think I'm more inclined to believe that there is some sort of information transmission. We know that the changelings are getting in and out of the Alpha Quadrant and that they're putting plants in there. So
see value in that. Sure. Yeah.
Sending them as part of trade shipments that they know is going to make its way into Federation. Like, sure. All right. But still, as far as these guys know, if you fuck around, you are running a chance of getting stomped out. By doing business with the Ferengi, you are endangering not only your crew and your command structure, but potentially your entire world. So it absolutely needs to be worth your time. And for Quark's greed, personal greed, to sabotage the relationship between an entire race and potentially their future as living people and the Federation, like that is a hell of a ballsy fucking greedy stunt there. Perfect way to get Quark on the ship. Perfect reason to actually be using the Defiant.
Yeah.
This is the first time we've seen it not in a science capacity when it was decidedly said this thing has no science role or science value. And putting it deep in enemy lines for this little clandestine meeting. And yeah, they're sitting there like going over the numbers and the guy just calls out like, here's where all these goofy extra surcharges are coming from. And there's a great look by Cisco over at Quark, like, you motherfucker. We were captured on the surface of a planet and almost killed. And all the other bad stuff that's happened, all the drills I'm running, you know what a big deal this Dominion thing is. And you are over here like this Jenga tower, and you were just stealing all of the support pieces from the bottom. And this is the answer that we need to the question of why is Quark still in business when his bar can be disrupted at the drop of a hat and everybody can just leave without paying because of a red alert.
He's got his side businesses. He's I the way I take this sort of relationship in my head, since there's not a lot of fleshing out of the specifics on screen, is that, the Grand Nagus has gifted Quark quite a trade remit as it relates to the Gamma Quadrant, and him serving as the middleman and taking a percentage for himself for his trouble and exposing himself to that risk is the reward. But the thing is there's no standards when it relates to how the Ferengi handle this sort of thing. It's up to him to see what he can get away with, which is very much the story here. And so that he has to manage those relationships and decide exactly how much of a percentage he thinks he can get away with taking is, how he proves he has the lobes, right? And
Quark's the establishment is the opportunity cost he has to pay for access to front row seats to the Gamma Quadrant.
Right. And I'm sure there's a part of that has to go back to the chief, and a part he gets to keep for himself. So the more he can extract, the more he can keep for himself after he kicks up to the boss, right? Very, very mafia.
While that's going on, we're peeking around the rest of the ship. There's a lot in common between the bridge of the Defiant and the Enterprise NX-01. It's a very busy place. There's way more monitors and displays than we saw out of the Enterprise, or really Voyager.
It's more compact, so it feels like there's more, I think.
And yet they found space to put a picnic table behind the captain's chair.
Yeah, little lunch nook.
I'm watching this like, what? On one hand, you've got Worf yelling at Helm Hottie, which, would you say her name was Carson?
Carson.
I need more of her. And us joking about the fact she's very attractive aside, I need this lady sitting at helm, because this episode really hammers that I don't like seeing the Deep Space Nine crew staffing the Defiant in the current capacities they're in. So as Worf's like, these numbers aren't good, get me 15% better efficacy. And Kira and Dax kind of looking at each other like, wow, this guy's a real fucking hard ass. Like, that's the introduction to the Worf plot line.
Mm-hmm.
But they're sitting there at a table. Now, in the Enterprise NX-01, there's like some tactical display. That's basically like their conference area that we would have had, the observation lounge on the D. That's where all the plotting happens. Unless, of course, you were called to Archer's ready room as he sat on his dinner potty.
or the occasion when you are drawn into this giant vacant room on the observation side so that you can be brought to the Judge T'Pol.
Space Justice, yeah. Man, I forgot about dinner potty. And Dax, so this table behind the captain's chair on the Defiant, it's just a fucking table with no displays. And I don't know, Dax is sitting there eating some sort of bento box.
Yeah, just having a snack, chilling out on the bridge. Very strange.
There should have been like, well, since the negotiations are going on in the mess hall, I guess I'm going to have to eat my lunch on the bridge. How very Neelix of her. But I don't like the crew assignments they've got here, because the configuration we keep going back to is your science person, Dax, ending up as your helm person, and then Kira Nerys filling this weird science role. And sometimes Worf is on weapons, sometimes it's Kira on weapons. Like, if you had to use main cast, I would much rather your terrorist who has a history of tricky fighter plane shit, right? That was that whole episode where her and Dax had to go recover those old fighters.
Yes.
We know she's a good pilot. Make her your helm person. Keep Dax on sensors. Put Worf on weapons, whatever, until he's, full-time captain. Or take Helm Hottie. Do we see more of her? Please?
Unfortunately, no. This is the one and only appearance of Helm Hottie. Yes.
She gave off vibes of the Beta Z that was the original helm officer on Voyager.
Yes, I was about to say the same thing. Very similar look overall.
But I thought her on helm was great. And also, it's crazy too seeing like so many Starfleet people through this episode actually have speaking roles because like they're the main focus and not background people.
Yeah. I don't think any of these guys had shown up before then as just like background extras.
Moon. What's his name?
Muniz? Did Muniz show up before?
I know his face for sure.
Yes, he did show up before.
And
You're absolutely
Voyager
right.
too, because I know his face.
Let's see here. Okay, so this character, he does show up again, but this is actually his first episode that he's in.
Okay.
The actor FJ Rio. Yes, actually, he has shown up twice before, and we have seen him twice before. You will probably most remember him from, I guess, a Voyager episode that I would really maybe at some point like to talk about again, Repentance, when they have all of the guys from Space Texas and they have to, he is the unrepentant prisoner from the part of the race that commits all the crimes.
Yeah. Hey, I'm a nice guy. Help me. Everybody's like,
let's crimes, Neelix. Have you considered that?
No, I'm just
Paris.
I'm actually just a piece of shit. Everybody's right. I'm a bad guy murderer.
Yeah, and he was also in Cognator as the chief engineer. That's an Enterprise episode with the third gender or whatever that Trip screws up. So
such a bad episode.
Yeah,
for all the reasons you wouldn't think it was going to be a bad episode. I think that was one of my favorite.
Joe Legg is the actual character we remember him from.
I think that was one of the best discussions we had out of all of Enterprise.
Yeah, because it was because it should have been Hoshi, I think, was what we arrived at, was that Trip was just the wrong character to be delivering on that plot. And if you just made it Hoshi instead, it actually ended up making a lot of sense.
Yeah.
So she was a woman.
Tomalak was in that one.
She was an ensign. She was more naive. She didn't care about space that much. She could have like just done what she did out of moral certitude that was completely inappropriate.
She could have ignored what Archer said since they were ex-boyfriend, girlfriend. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the bridge setup, and then down in engineering, you've got O'Brien down there trying to finish patching the hole in the floor where hell was creeping out during that plasma. Which wasn't that last episode?
It was. Yeah, they had to lock down the stage fatality from Rejoined, and yeah, he is kind of directing traffic with Muniz and Stevens, and it's kind of hey, we've been in worse spots before. We fought the Jem'Hadar, 12v1 them, no problems. We're going to be fine. Kind of getting the patter of how he typically supervises his staff.
So they're hanging out in this remote region of space by this nebula or something. And sure enough, some Jem'Hadar show up. And they are not there to talk. They are there to punish. And this Crema leader guy, James Cromwell, is like, fuck, my crew is going to die because I was stupid enough to do business with the Federation, which has stabbed me in the back. And now everything is going to fall apart for nothing. His ship tries to leave. It starts getting hit. It flies off into the nebula. No, I'm sorry, it's a gas giant. That's what it is.
Yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, shit. And sure enough, the Jem'Hadar go after it. And Sisko's like, fuck it. We're going in too.
You got to make up for the fact you've put them in this position, right? Like, if you want to retain this relationship, you're going to have to.
A pop-up comes on screen. It's like, hey, it's Clippy. I see you're trying to write a Sonar Red October episode. Would you like me to help?
Time to make this a submarine thing. Das Boot called, and once its plot points back.
I can't hold it against Deep Space Nine because it certainly came before all the other ones, but I feel like I am just so saturated with these Sonar Red October, Hunt for Red October episodes, because there was the big one they did in Strange New Worlds.
Correct, with the Gorn.
I want to say we got one out of Enterprise.
Yes, we did. I'm trying. A lot of the like Expanse stuff kind of felt like that at times.
Oh, absolutely. Was there a Voyager one?
You could probably say some elements of Year of Hell and Borg stuff had it, but not like a single episode where I think you could say it was like a straight ripoff.
Well,
so it is a hot, like, or Wrath of Khan. I mean, like
Wrath of Khan's the other one that's coming up.
So it what are you trying to do when you do this, right? It's like, I want to defend the trope for a second, because it is, you're trying to create a naval combat story, right? And how do you make that drama compelling? Well, we have to make it so that we don't have visibility on targets, that we don't have visibility on our ability to engage, and then we create this sort of uncertainty and tension. This is why submarine stories are effective, because you're underwater. There's this hazard that you're all constantly surrounded by. Everything has to be done in secret and in silence, and there's move and counter move. It's often done in the blind. How do we recreate that in space? Well, they have to go into a nebula or a gas giant, and we're going to recreate the idea of the obscured atmospheric circumstances that make it so that we can recreate the submarine story in aggregate, right? And through that, we create tension and drama that allows us to have these kinetic conflicts in a way that's constrained by a narrative device with which we are much more familiar as the audience. Okay, I'll grant all of that. And the fact that you're probably going to wind up returning to that idea with some frequency when you do Star Trek in general, because you want to be able to build those moments out. And in this case, I will grant them they did a good job of using the premise in a way that felt like it wasn't being strained, right? Like, all right, we're going to do the whole, we're moving through the different pressure zones, and okay, our guidance on our torpedoes don't work, so we're going to have to hack it. We're going to hack some probes and make them into torpedoes because they can actually still see in it. It all works in a way that doesn't feel like it's like a hack job,
My favorite part of this is that it isn't the focus. And that's something that Deep Space Nine has done an amazing job with, I think, and we've commented on it, is you take the thing that would have been the whole plot of a Next Gen, and I'm not shitting on Next Gen here, because Next Gen would take something like Disaster and or some of these other things and like make the sonar part the whole plot. And it could do a great job with that because you had really strong, great actors. But in this case, it's like, all right, cool. Here's the Hunt for Red October part, and that's going to be the backdrop. And then we're also going to sprinkle the disaster in there. So we're getting these vignettes, and we're going to get to bounce between. So they've taken stuff that there's a whole episode worth of content there. They've cut it down to just the great parts, and they've mashed it up with other shit.
Yeah.
And then Quark nonsense. And done a great job across. Why am I not looking at this as a great episode? I'm sitting here talking about
because it's probably because it felt a little familiar, like we've seen this before. I think it's dense too. When you think about how much happens in it, and how, like, there's not a wasted second in the whole episode because you were trying to do so much. And we've talked about like the Quark stuff a little bit. I want to like maybe focus on that next, because it's probably the most meaty sort of character development and insight that we get when he's stuck in the mess hall with James Cromwell. We really get a kind of like vision into business as he sees it, which is more, as he very directly ends up putting, like gambling. It's like a game that he gets a thrill out of. How far can I push my leverage in cheating you, basically, until you catch me?
Let's go further with that. It's an addiction. And that's something we're going to have to carry forward, I think, with Quark, who has now endangered everybody's life many times. And I keep going back to Ops of Rage for many reasons in this show, which is interesting because it's not like that was a standout episode, but like in terms of Trill content, in terms of Kieran Reese's fighting ability, in terms of Quark. The only thing that can beat him apparently is a hard edge of a fucking control console and gravity. Yeah. Quark has repeatedly fucked the crew to near-death levels. That one probably being the worst, where he let that terrorist cell come in to like jump Jadzia while everybody else was gone, and realize his terrible mistake. And Kira saying basically, "I'm going to kill you," and like him finding the courage to jump on the guy's back and all. But like here he is again, just perpetually fucking his friends over with his own greed. Like, this dude is a lover boy who's addicted to a broken heart.
He's addicted to risk. He loves taking chances. And He also, though, has this redemptive element to him that's very well displayed in this episode. When that torpedo, comes into the mess hall and is jammed in there and hasn't exploded, there is zero hesitation on Quark's part of, let's open this bitch up and see if we can disarm it. He's the one who's like, grab the fucking case. I'll let it do it.
Well, pause on that, right? Jumping back to him being addicted to risk. Look at all the women that he's fallen in love with.
Oh, every single one. Not a one of them wasn't risky.
Red flags all over the place. Terrorist. I mean, maybe even 2 terrorists, right?
A criminal.
I feel like the Alex vampire.
The tall glass of water freight captain who's clearly also like a smuggler.
Mm-hmm.
A Klingon woman who definitely has her way with things.
Yeah, like he absolutely is going after the red flags. Up into the torpedo going in. Is it redemptive of him being like, I need to fix this? Or again, is this dude chasing the high of gambling? Which he very clear is like, you just pick one and go. Boop. Yay, we lived.
I like how his story is that he addicts James Cromwell to gambling.
It is, but my mind's blown up right now because, all the stuff we've talked about Quark, why is he staying in Deep Space Nine, which is a dangerous city? Why would you even go to a Cardassian death camp in the first place?
Because it's interesting. It makes you live.
The profits are there, but also, again, this guy's chasing highs. And he
watched his father fail in a very mundane way, and he's not going to do the same thing. That's kind of like,
listen, man, I'm telling you, this guy is an adrenaline junkie. Like, that's the only way that you can take someone who is of reasonable, if not advanced intelligence, and be like, why are you staying in this? Profit drive, sure. But the crazy other risks he take, like, this guy's got that Starfleet, and he'll bitch about it here and there, but he's still going into this stuff. Like, look at how often he's been cowardly versus how often he's been risk indulgent, and he's going after the adventures too.
Korg is not a coward. He's not. He's willing to throw all the dice. He will try to avoid physical conflict. Yeah. That is different than being a coward. He has never been a coward.
And, this episode really, for me, put off big D&D vibes for him being like the thief disarming the trap.
Oh, yeah.
But like, that's absolutely what he is a D&D thief. He is cowardly to I'm not going to go into a straight fight because I know I'm going to get my ass whipped, but I'm still willing to go into these dungeons. I'm going to go after the gold, and it's not just the gold I'm after. I think there's a rush that I'll put these
Federation Paladins in front of me to tank the dragon, but I will gladly disarm the trap and take some of the gold. Absolutely, I'm in for that.
That's
what's life if not a little bit of a thrill.
During the attack, we mentioned that unfortunately, Captain Sisko has to taste the sharp edge of his own sword. It's not just engineering trying to kill people. Sometimes it's which, Jesus Christ, the kill count on the bridge. 2 crew members, faces melted off on screen.
Yeah, flat dead. Like, no shot. Wow. IEDs got them real good.
Listen, I want you to think about Star Wars, all right? I want you to think about the Death Star gunner helmets, those big, black, like, super teardrop things. Yeah. Maybe that's not stupid. Maybe the Galactic Empire knows what's up, and if you're going to put people in front of high voltage consoles, like, put them in a fucking helmet. So the next time there's an explosion, like, the explosion wraps around the aerodynamic helmet and, like, safely channels it to the back so you're not losing human resources here. Who would have ever thought the Galactic Empire was a more kind to the employee organization than Starfleet? Jesus Christ.
I do like that, unlike in civil defense, we actually at least get to know these guys died. Like, that their deaths are noted. Like, they're dead. Sorry.
And this is now the second time that Sisko has almost died to his own ship, because he got Tesla coiled in whatever that Inner Light episode was. And now he just busts his head on the side of a console. And I'm going to tell you what else. This guy is a father. He's gone through the same things I have. He should know when you got sharp corners and kids stumbling around, you put the foam strip along the side. So when someone inevitably falls and hits their face on it, you're not going to bust your eyeball out.
So there's also a vignette we haven't touched on yet, which is Dax and Bashir. Bashir doesn't have much kind of run in the run up here. He's just like, he winds up in the story at the time to save Dex from the hull breach because they're in the gas atmosphere.
Which, let me tell you, I had money on the table that Muniz was going to. I'm like, oh, fuck. They got engineering guy there needlessly with Dax.
Yeah.
This motherfucker's getting sucked out into space. Little did I know he was going to go on to have like lines and dialogue and live happily ever after and everything.
Good, very interesting command moment for Cisco that he he shows like why he's the captain of like, yeah, I know my best friend's in there. Lock the fucking door. Like, we gotta save the ship. Not a hard call. Not gonna risk it.
When I am on the bridge of the Defiant, I'm in sacrifice my friends mode. I mean, there was O'Brien and Dax that he left behind at the Dominion answering machine planet, right?
Yeah, and this is like, this goes back to TNG when Troy was taking her command, tests. That she was struggling with even conceiving of the idea that she'd have to sacrifice the people she was closest to if she's going to be in a position of authority. And, like that Cisco doesn't do it like willy-nilly, but, he certainly has weight on his shoulders and in his face when he knows what he's doing. But he doesn't hesitate to do it if it's the right decision because he's the captain, and that's why he is. And now we don't spend a lot of time with Dax and Bashir and the Jeffries tube. It's really just like a moment for them to like kind of resolve that they're not pursuing each other romantically anymore, but also to talk about it and with some distance to say like, yeah, I came on too strong, and her to be like, yeah, and I kind of liked being chased, but we're both past that at this point. We're bros. Everything you kind of need out of the two of them at the moment, and you just spend exactly as much time as you need on it. Again, great Dax is a supporting character stuff where, I like it when we're not doing Trill things. Like when we're just her just being part of the crew.
Absolutely.
And Julian too, like it demonstrates how much his character's grown relatively quickly, like how insufferable he really was in season 1, and then he's kind of reflecting on that, and now he's grown, he's very much matured, and he's embraced the ideals of being a Starfleet officer in a way he wasn't before.
I like him calling out like, yeah, I was really hoping we could get in the old Shuttle Pod 1.
Yeah, I want to have a Shuttle Pod 1 fantasy with you. And she's like, that's a very weird thing. He's like, yeah, I know.
Is it though? I mean, doesn't every child know about the, voyages of the NX-01 in that time that, one of the risks is you could just get stuck out in a shuttlecraft for a month.
With Reed, of all people.
Yeah, well.
In any case...
that's one of the highest played fantasy simulators in the Federation holodeck network. You plug your own friend in there, not Reed. Or if it's a murder strangler.
You just got to get it out of your system. How long can you last before you kill Reed?
Oh, there's like a high score. Jesus Christ,
how many hours can you make it? Yeah. So after everything kind of blows up on the bridge, Helm Hottie goes to get a medic for Cisco. Kira is stuck with Cisco trying to keep him awake because he has a concussion and can't let him get consciousness, which is very tropey, but kind of allows the bridge to happen of you set up this thing where there's a whole holiday about Cisco that he seems to be purposefully avoiding being at right now. And we finally get back to the plot of, oh, yes, he is the space Moses of her religion. And she probably has thoughts about that we need to explore.
The Kira Cisco portion is the worst part of this episode. And I think it's the only time that I've really seen a scene with Nana Vister where I just was not buying the acting. And
really?
Yeah, I
was buying it because it's her spiritual self is a private part of her. She has never discussed it with Cisco, despite how important it is to her, and how important he specifically is to her. You are the central part of my religion, which is the central part of my life. I am literally the executive officer to the most important person in my religion. So it's more than you're my captain. You're my Jesus Christ. And I can't ever talk to you about it because you don't want to.
She touched on that stuff in the prophecy with the dragons coming home, or the serpents returning to their nest. Yeah.
But even then, it was a constrained conversation about how can you rationally decide that this is real. Not, I have a personal connection to who you are, and I'm finally going to decide I'm going to tell you about it because I don't know what else to do anymore except to pray. that they save you.
First I was there when our Pope died, and now I'm about to let our Jesus Christ die.
Yes.
I'm never getting into heaven.
I because she does dial it down. I see what you mean of like, she's not the same sort of person she typically is, but I think it reflects her vulnerability about something that
it's just bad dialogue, the story, the other, like, there was something for me that was just failing to click between I'm afraid you're going to die and I have to come to terms with that and do whatever it takes to keep you awake and ultimately pray you back to life. O'Brien down in engineering when the shit goes down and they're like trying to page, he gives up on people, on like thoughts people could be alive like that. Like his old,
he's like, they're all dead.
And I would say like, okay.
Well, that's actually that's something that happens in disasters. Riker thinks everyone on the bridge is dead, and O'Brien's one of the people on the bridge.
Yeah, so it's like
I wonder if they did that on purpose, like to flip the dynamic.
He could be like, listen, on the Rutledge, we lost bridge crew, all that. Like,
why do you think I wound up the tactical officer? We just kept getting it. The place kept exploding.
Right here, this exact moment with people freaking out around him, this is where he needed to be like, chill. All right, these things happen. This is very clearly not my first rodeo. If it can happen to the Enterprise, it's going to happen to us. We'll get through it. Just keep your nose down and thug it out.
He kind of does. I mean, he's not in any way affected by this.
Again, he writes everybody off as just said, like, I could have used like the one times, like, trust me, these things have a tendency to work out to our favor. Wink.
He gets right to work. Worf eventually gets to engineering to take command because it's the functional part of the ship. And the story there, like I mentioned in the tease, right, is that Worf is still working on his leadership skills. This is a W in the did Worf add to the story?
Yeah.
Tally that we're running. And he is very good at knowing what to do, but bad at understanding and reading the room and how to direct people, which is a realistic flaw for him to have at this point in his career, right? He's relatively recently promoted to lieutenant commander, which is, when you think about Starfleet's rank structure, that first rank where you really have genuine command responsibilities that can be pretty broad, right? Before he was a lieutenant, like you're an ensign, you're a jobber. You might have a couple.
You're the chief of security, and you've got a bunch of grunts under you. Like that's the part of this I don't buy, is that you absolutely have dealt with potentially non-officers, or at least
he's dealt with grunts who thug life with him, and so he's comfortable with that. He's with his heavies, like violence time. Let's go, right? This is, I am directing the operations of a starship in distress from a secondary command position with the staff available to me who include people who are not used to these sorts of things. How do I handle that? He's never been put in that position before. He's in command of the ship, right? Like Cisco's out of commission. He's making all the calls right now. You get that dynamic I talked about before where O'Brien is watching and how he's commanding. He's supporting every decision he's making. Right. He's O'Brien is being a good executive officer essentially at this point of ensuring that his commands are followed through on and making it so that, he doesn't feel like he's being challenged. But you see the incompatibility between these guys who, kind of want to be heard a little bit and understand about what they're trying to do to fulfill his commands, and his inability to bridge the gap to say like, no, I want it a very specific way. And O'Brien eventually coming and saying, hey man, can I give you some advice? And Worf, to his credit, great character moment. He's like, yeah, anytime. Like, I respect you. You can definitely.
His entire demeanor shifting when O'Brien approaches him too. Like he steps out of like, I am command boss. Yeah, cool. Let's talk. We've been through this shit before. You delivered my child. Yeah. What you got,
please?
Bro? Like he gives him the bro voice.
You may do wish. You may tell me what you think, and he tells him what he thinks. And Worf, to his credit, to immediately like he's stiff, but he's like, okay, I hear you, and he does shift. Like he learned. He like, all right, I had somebody I respect tell me I'm not doing this right. I'm going to take that seriously. I'm going to approach things differently. I'm going to read what these guys are up to. And when they have ideas that seem to flow with what I want to do, I'm going to give them the discretion to proceed with their expertise to accomplish what I want. I'm going to trust them rather than direct them. And that is a key leadership skill that you kind of have to learn. And there's also like the give and take where at the end, when, he's giving him a little too much latitude, and Brian's basically got to remind him, like, don't do that too much. Like, you got to, they'll slack off. They're humans, right? Like, they'll tell you they want extra time to do something when you could probably press them to do it sooner because, they're animals, Jim. You gotta, you gotta keep them in line. The plot works. The dynamic works. It's not the highest stakes part of the plot. Is they're really putting a lot of the drama in the Nana Vista, tapping into her whole religion thing, and then Quark playing, gambling with his life with the torpedo with James Cromwell. But it still like suits the purpose. Shows Worf's very effective. He comes up with a tactic. He uses the probes to be able to like create homing torpedoes, and is able to destroy the Jem'Hadar, and then use the other one as bait so that he can flank them and shoot them and destroy them. So he's showing his tactical expertise and all of that. It's all well portrayed. All comes together nice.
Quark as the lockpick too. Like that's a well-established link. This dude knows his way around electronics. What a person to have stuck in there. Kira Nerys and Cisco on the floor. She's like, I don't know what to talk to you. Like, what do we talk about? It's always been work. Even when we're not working. Like, what do I tell you about? Well, Kira, why don't we dip back into that that white hot drama that Gul Dukat knocked his Bajorn mistress up and was ready to zap his own kid. Let's get the
dots about that asshole.
Like, wow, what a thing to keep us awake with riveting conversation. Like, can you believe this guy? Like, just bring up Dukat. You're going to have 5 hours worth of discussion about that guy. That concussion doesn't stand a chance.
He stabbed his own asshole. You should have seen it. Went right up, man. Right up.
Also, too, just an inconsistency moment when Bashir and Dax are talking. She's like, well, Julian, you came on so strong. I'm not that kind of girl. What?
Well, I like that she's like, bitch, yes, you are. Like, you loved it, man. You loved being chased by me.
You bang out with everybody sight unseen. Like, what do you tell me I'm coming on too strong? Just be like, hey, I don't like guys with your haircut, whatever. We end up at the end of the episode. Everything's been saved. They fixed Defiant in like 15 minutes. It's a highly modular ship, I assume. It's just all made out of Legos because stuff breaks so easily. They can swap it out so fast. Barclay Jr., who is not an especially compelling actor or character, having his like, oh, cool, let's have our nerd moment as we waddle off and talk about, how to bypass safeties and this stuff. And then, Cisco wants to connect with Kira, and he's like, I'm going to drag you into a baseball game. I hope you've got 8 hours. You're not going to be doing anything for one of the slowest moving games that moved so slowly that it went extinct, basically. But I will say, if you're going to have a lead character force a sport on me, I'll take baseball, I think, over Archer's very strange water polo.
Yeah. No, I would agree. It's a nice, I like the idea that like Cisco uses, I invited you to a baseball game as a sort of level of personal, interaction of like, this is my action by which I'm going to allow you to, for us to be friends outside of work,
Here's my question.
It's like the poker game, right? Like this is us hanging out.
Well, the poker game is missing something this is not. And that's hot dogs. Now, he sends her specifically to Quark's to get the hot dogs, which makes me think these are not replicated hot dogs. And at that point, I don't see any cows or pigs or anything else around Deep Space Nine. So this is a real Demolition Man moment. Like, what is in these hot dogs? And what do we already know that Quark was getting very creative with how he was handling them when he tried making those dog fights? What were those things called? The Vorcha?
No, yeah, the voles. Are they made of voles?
Hot voles. Vole dogs. I don't know, man.
So I want to conclude our episode here on something I spotted here in Memory Alpha here, just at the very end, and I've put on the screen because we talked at the beginning about David Mack, and he was this author. Here's a little vignette from his memory alpha that maybe he does not deserve to be remembered with nearly as much regard, or at least gives us some insight to some things that have become more relevant. In 2014, David Mack, David R. George III, who is another prolific Star Trek author, and Kristen Beyer, who is also a prolific Star Trek author, and unfortunately very much a name that I've heard a lot in regards to Starfleet Academy, and you're about to find out why, approached Alex Kurtzman and Robert Orsi's KO Paper Products Film Production Company, who by then had the license for television Star Trek, soon to develop Star Trek Discovery. They basically pitched a whole story idea as a way to demonstrate, like, hey, we're all writers. We write Star Trek, and we would be a great group of people to bring on that if you want Star Trek writers for your new show. And they only took Kristen Beyer. They cut the two guys out. And it was like, I think this might be the first vignette from 12 years ago where Kurtzman decided he didn't want people who understood Star Trek to be on the team. Interesting little tidbit here at the end. So,
well, look where it got him.
What it got us was a great episode of Star Trek here. Thank you very much.
You're going with great?
Yeah, I've warmed up to it as we talked about it. I think it is great. I think it's gone from good to great in my estimation because it's just very tightly put together. I think it's staying good for you makes sense because you just didn't care for the Kira stuff the way I liked it. But yeah, I'm going to call it great. The low end of great. It's like an A-, you know?
Well, we're going to go into episode 8 next, Little Green Men. Here's what looks like some World War II uniforms. There's Quark. A malfunction on Quark's new ship causes Quark, Rom, and Nog to crash in the year 1947, Roswell, New Mexico. Drop the crew back in time on Earth, and they're... Gosh, I was talking to Gemini, and she said it was... it would have taken the Enterprise 10 days at emergency warp speeds to hit Deep Space Nine from Earth.
Okay, that seems like a fair distance.
Yeah.
10 days at max warp, yeah.
Yeah.
What? And that's like from the center of the Federation to the very outskirts. Like you're really pushing it. Like you're going as fast as you
the ship.
can.
Yeah.
But all right. Yeah. The framing devices. You know, they're dropping Nog off at school, right?
Oh, okay. Well, then there's a reason for. Man, there's some real dangerous airspace over Earth recently in terms of temporal. Because that's
it's like every time we show up, some fucking bullshit happens on Earth in the past.
Jesus Christ. Start just landing on the surface. Do not use the transporters. We cannot trust them. All right.
What we can trust is you, all of you out there listening to Future Please. If you are interested in our content on Patreon, I have good news. There will be a new episode soon without Peter. Maybe for the first and only time, we did a crowd Discord Starfleet Academy Season 1 rip to celebrate the fact we all watched it together. And happy to say it's quite funny. It's like 2 hours long, so it's taking me a little bit of time to get through. But it'll be up on our Patreon soon, where it will reside probably forever. Maybe not. Who knows? But if you'd like access to that, you should join our Patreon. It's only $3 a month. Help support the show, and you can listen to some pretty savage commentary about the worst thing all 7 of us probably ever watched. So thank you so much for your continued support of Future Please, and we will see you next week.